The Untouchables. My name is Eric, this is my channel, and it's now the 8th of January, 2026. So why can't we touch anything? Well, we can't touch anything because everything is an illusion on every level of perception, all right? Freedom is an illusion, truth is an illusion, the physical world is an illusion, and we're going to find out a lot about that. Frank Zappa said the illusion of freedom will continue for as long as it's profitable for that illusion to continue. All right, so let's start with somebody else who was also very popular, Einstein, all right? Einstein was born on March 14th of 1879 and died on April 18th of 1955. Abraham Traore was born on March 14th of 1988. Karl Marx died on March 14th of 1883. This is called mnemonics, okay? I could go on and on with dates and any kind of little piece of information. We use acronyms. Holmes, Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, Superior. That is mnemonics, all right? And that's an acronym. That's a specific tool. And we could also use Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, brown, indigo, violet, the 7 colors of the rainbow. All right. So these are the types of things that allow us to connect with everything in the known universe. It's not just Einstein. Fritjof Capra was an Austrian physicist who told us about Descartes and the comparative analysis of the human body to a clock. All of these working parts seem like they could be autonomous, but they need a host. And we need a host too. We seem like we're autonomous, but we're not. All right, so let's try to understand all of this in a very clear fashion, and it will take us to a different place. Everything is connected. There is no digression. There is no non sequitur. And so the most important thing is that we understand that everything is one. That's why we hear about oneness, all right? Taoism is very, very important. As a matter of fact, who was it? Alan Watts was very much into Taoism, all right? So let's talk about what Einstein did a little bit. But I want everybody to think about the Akashic field a little bit more. Akashic field is what I would say like the universal internet. All right. All the information is out there, every feeling, every experience that everyone's ever had. Right. And not just people, every form of life. Right. And I'm not even talking about just animals. I'm not even talking about just plants. I'm talking about rocks and things that we consider inorganic that actually have energy. So as a matter of fact, quartz can produce light and sound under the right conditions. So it's a very mysterious world that we live in. And that's why the Egyptians and all of these very sophisticated and highly technologically advanced civilizations built all of these structures out of rocks. All right. So let's talk about something. You know, when I start to talk like this, generally people are inspired to say something like, oh, I guess you don't believe in gravity. You must be a conspiracy theorist, right? All right. I believe in gravity, but I believe in the real gravity. 99.99% of people don't have any idea what gravity is. They think it's a force that pulls you down. It has nothing to do with that. Gravity is a geometric shape. Okay. There's another physicist that's really popular right now, and he's been talking about this. His name is Richard Feynman. He won a Nobel Peace Prize. Nobel Prize. I shouldn't say Peace Prize. But the idea here is that this is real science. And what is it about this gravity that makes it a shape? Well, it's a shape because of the curvature of space, okay? And it has a relationship. There are 3 things here that engage, that interact together, and that is mass, energy, and the curvature of space. And so that's why, you know, understanding gravity the way it is can help us with every facet of our life. Also understanding time. Time is also a geometric shape. It's a fabric. You know, many people have seen this kind of depiction of a kind of a web, a net, where there's a round circle, looks like a bowling ball, maybe a planet, right? And it just makes that net sink because of its weight, because of its mass, all right? So there's mass, energy, and the curvature of space. Let's try to keep that in mind, all right? So that changes everything. So if we can bring the 2 ends of the fabric together, we can actually transport ourselves great distances almost instantaneously if we can bring those together and have them almost meet, right? But the fact is, nothing can meet that has atoms in it, all right? And so these atoms are basically points of reference. They basically hold everything together. You and I are made of the same things that the air is made out of. These are electric and magnetic fields, all right? So the perimeter of all the atoms is charged with electrons negatively, and so they can never occupy the same space. So when we walk on the ground, we never walk on the ground. We walk on a magic carpet. We don't sit in a chair. We don't make contact with it. We sit on a magic carpet. We are floating always. Throughout our life, we are floating. We are levitating. All right. Try to understand this. You can look this up. And this force is called repulsion. And you've never held hands with anyone. All right. We never touch anything. This perception of touch is simply something that is caused by an agitation, a disruption in these magnetic and electric fields. And that's the perception we have. It's not making contact. We never make contact. All right. So this is a great way to start. So we can understand that everything in our life is much different than how we perceive it. Same thing is true with presidents, right? And propaganda. I mean, all of this is based on propaganda too. There are three primary outlets for propaganda, and that is academia, politicians, and media. All right. I've said enough times that our support group believes all of this because they hear it from these people that they believe, and then they start to repeat it, and then it simply reinforces the false belief system in us, right? So it's kind of like an impetus. You know, these people who control us, they don't need to work that hard because we do it to ourselves. It's kind of it just has its own kind of emotion, right? It's just crazy how all of this actually works. But it's such a weird existence that we're in. And then we perceive these things called Democrats and Republicans, right? This is a tool of division. Voting is a tool of division, and it's also a tool to destroy the entire world. Nobody should be voting. I've explained this before, in America especially. But let's explain this in a different way here. So in 1789, we had the French Revolution, all right? People were pissed off. That went 10 years. It began with Bastille Day. And this paradigm came out of it. It's called left wing and right wing, all right? Very simple that they actually use etymology to bring everybody onto the same table. As this perception that we're different, we're not different, and we don't have different beliefs. The only different beliefs are these superficial beliefs that they use to control us, things like abortion and gun control, all right? When it comes to expansion of war, expansion of Wall Street, erosion of civil liberties, destruction of the working class, and pollution, which is a byproduct of the first two, we all are on the same page. When we vote for a Democrat or Republican president, they do the same thing. All right. Their job is to facilitate corruption. It doesn't matter. Corruption doesn't diminish. It doesn't mitigate. It expands. And their job is to put a rubber stamp for their bosses, the people that advise them on what to do, and facilitate all of this corruption. So they've got us believing the same things. Democrats are very right-wing. There is no such thing as a left-wing Democrat, or anybody that votes Democrat or Republican are both right-wingers. Matter of fact, I would go so far as to say they're right-wing extremists. Now, when I say expansion of war, expansion of Wall Street, erosion of civil liberties, and destruction of the working class, this is what happens when we vote. We know the study out of Princeton tells us when we vote, we get about 30% of the most important things and the least important things. But when the aristocrat class votes, they get almost everything they want, and they make money off of war. They make money off of weapons. They make money off of Wall Street, right? Everything that destroys us. When we have less civil liberties, they have more control over us. And when we have, basically a working class that's being destroyed and making less and less money with relationship to inflation, they make more money. When their assets are inflated, they get richer, and we pay more for everything. All right. So this is part of the misconception that you're going to get something different with a Democrat than you get with a Republican. Now, there is something different. Style. All right. Chris Hedges pointed this out a long time ago, and it was very brilliant. They're all the same in substance. They're only different in style. Donald Trump appeals to a very primal side of humanity, people that are fed up. And I'm not saying you have to be stupid or prime. I mean, it has nothing to do with that. It just has something to do with being on one end, they're fed up with Democrats who smile at you like Obama and lie to you continuously, right? He seems so nice, but everything he does is horrible. If I went through his policies, it would be shocking. It would almost be like sticking your finger in a socket to hear what their policies really are. And people don't know their policies. You know what they make sure people know? The good things that they did. And none of them have ever done anything good. All right. With relationship, everything, all this is based on ratio, right? It's all cost benefit, when you look at it, what's the cost of running a genocide in Gaza and murdering and dropping bombs on all of these people, men, women, and children, okay? We don't want to exclude men. That's crazy. And we don't want to exclude the poor people. We always talk about the middle class. This is how we're programmed, all right? So let's make it very clear. You're voting for the same thing. You're going for the same thing. Let's talk about how they get this illusion across using propaganda. All right. So we've got people. I'll use this kind of it was a debate between Flint Dibble, and Flint Dibble is an archaeologist. He's a mainstream archaeologist. Joe Rogan held this debate between him and Graham Hancock, who is an independent researcher. And Flint Dibble, of course, it's very common for the centralized power and the mainstream of every area of study to carry out the same narrative until it gets too hard to do that, right? Like Bill Clinton when he apologized for MK Ultra and the Tuskegee experiment because it was getting out, right? And his bosses told him, just tell them they'll look like a deer in the headlights. Most of them don't know anything about anything, and that's the truth. They didn't know what MK Ultra was, right? And some of them, probably more people knew what the Tuskegee experiment was, right? But the idea here is that they use these people. And so they had this debate, and really Graham Hancock knows what he's talking about. Doesn't mean he's right about everything, but he's much more right. And because this is all theory, right? We're in conjecture. So we're trying to figure out who built all of these structures and how they did it. I mean, it is impossible for primitive people with copper tools to have done anything of this magnitude. The enormity and the precision and the number of different sites all over the world, you would never have enough people, and you would never be able to accomplish it, especially with diorite and granite, rocks that are harder than steel, and you're using copper tools and sand to kind of rub together. I mean, it's a joke, right? But yet people believe it, and people will believe anything, all right? So let's give you another example here. William F. Buckley, Jr., he had a show called Firing Line back in the 70s. Noam Chomsky went on. Now, William F. Buckley was considered one of the top intellectuals. He was very pompous and very snide and very condescending. And he tried to do that with Chomsky, and Chomsky put him in his place, called him out on everything he was wrong about. And they were selling war. That's what people like Buckley would do. They would sell the wars, all right? And the wars, we know, are just a construct. We know that the bankers fund both sides in the wars, and we know that the multinational corporations, which they also own, supply both sides in the wars. They did this in the Napoleonic Wars. They did this with World War I and World War II and all the wars. I mean, we know it, right? The Nazis were funded by all these different banks like Chase Bank and the Bank of International Settlements and Brown Brothers Bank, which was Prescott Bush, H.W.'s father. They're all Nazis, and this Nazi ideology comes from Rome, all right? So anyway, this is something that, we're going to explain a little further. I want to give you a couple more examples, and then I'll actually go off on some other things here. But James W. Lowen is a great example. Now, James W. Lowen was a sociologist and historian. He wrote a book, very famous book, but many people haven't probably heard about it. It's called Lies My Teacher Told Me. All right. He talks about all the lies, all the historical events. And of course, we know, even somebody like Napoleon Bonaparte said, history is lies agreed upon, right? And George Santayana said, history is a pack of lies about events that never happened, told by people who were not there, right? Orwell said, those who control the past control the future, and those who control the present control the past, because they write all these books. Okay, they're not written by the people you think they're written by. It's ridiculous. Leo Tolstoy said history would be a wonderful thing. If only it were true. It's not. All right? So, understanding that, yes, this is all a facade, and, what Lowen said, especially it was very important in his interviews, that he would interview these intellectuals and these great academics, and he would ask them about the content of the books they endorsed, especially textbooks. And he said they didn't know anything about the books. They only endorsed them and got paid to endorse them because this lends the books credibility and it sells them. It's just like all these politicians, Madeleine Albright or Susan Rice or Samantha Power. These are all warmongering, horrible people that they try to They try to glamorize them as being, people that really tried to do something good, even like the presidents, Obama and Clinton and Bush and, Trump. Doesn't matter. They're all the same, right? They all work for the same people. They punch the same clock. This is ridiculous to think that they're any different. They're not, they're different in style. So, all right. So, understanding this, now we see that the books are, and by the way, this book, Lies My Teacher Told Me, won a ton of awards. Probably 3 or 4. But I mean, it was a big thing. It really was highly regarded book because it's true, and that's one of the things. I mean, Chomsky talks about, people like Adam Smith, and he wrote Wealth of Nations, and how university professors basically point towards an early passage in the book where he looks favorably on division of labor. But 300 pages later, toward the end, he condemns it as leading to the ultimate in human stupidity and ignorance. And so we see here where Karl Marx got his influence, right? And some people, just in case you don't know, Adam Smith was born on June 16th of 1723 and died on July 17th of 1790. Marx was 100 years later, right? Most people don't know that Marx was born on really May 5th, right? Cinco de Mayo of 1818 and died on March 14th of 1883, as I said before. But yes, we need to understand how this system actually works. So I want to go back to something here. When I talked about the French Revolution and how this paradigm of the left wing and the right wing were different, but now they're exactly the same. They floated the Democrats into being 100% right wing. They're not left wing at all. I brought this up earlier, but I want to give you a little bit more on this. So, you look at how much they hated Dick Cheney and Bush. They were the devil. They were the most evil demons on the planet, but now they love them. Right? Nancy Pelosi and her daughter said that Bush would be the finest role model as a father figure in the country. Kamala Harris ran under Dick Cheney. He was her primary sponsor. I mean, this is amazing. These people have they don't know it, but they have no morals or ethics. They have no values, right? And that's what it's like, really, when people aren't afraid to be lost, as long as they're not lost alone. They want to be in a group. It's primal. It's tribal, and they're afraid if they're by themselves, and they want to be loved. This is something that they attack, these innate human proclivities that are exploited for us. So anyway, after that we had this. They're both right wing. By the way, just so you know, again, right wing meant, once again, that you supported feudals and you supported monarchies. You were against freedom, you were for slavery, and you had no problem with being basically a slave. And that's the conservative side, right? Was to keep things the way they were. And then left wing meant radical change for the working class. All right. So everybody should be radical left, but they use etymology. It's the way that language evolves over time. Now, it doesn't evolve organically. It evolves that way because the people who run everything do all of this because it's in their favor to do it. All right. So I'm going to start off I'm going to do part 2, and I'm going to start off at the French Revolution and come forward, and I'm going to really talk about some important things with regard to these untouchables. But remember, the truth is untouchable. Freedom is untouchable, and our physical world is untouchable. And that's why we'll call this part 1 of the Untouchables. Okay. Thanks so much for listening. And again, I don't promote this, but whoever I give it to, hopefully we get something out of it, and we can use this to kind of change ourselves and the people around us. Okay. So thanks so much, and have a great day.